Fellow fight fans, what up? It's your boy MMT, and let's talk fights. UFC 286 went down last weekend, and it was insane. I did not expect Leon Edwards to get it done, but my man showed up, and he defeated Kamaru Usman twice in a row. And not only that, but in two different methods of victory. The first one, obviously, the head kick, heard around the world, and this one, he beat him by decision. I thought, and I bet accordingly, I thought Usman was going to edge out the decision victory. I really did. I thought his championship mind was going to prevail, but to be honest with you, it looked like his body is declining. His takedown shots weren't as explosive as it used to be, and it could be because Leon was hammering him with body shots out the gate. I was really impressed with Leon's volume. My man throws with power and volume, and he did it over 25 minutes, so he's going to be a hard guy to beat. I'm excited to see what happens. Obviously, a lot of controversy on who deserves it next. Should Colby Chaos Covington get the chance next, even though he already fought for the belt twice against Usman? Well, even though he hasn't fought in a year, and even though his last opponent was Jorge Masvidal, who was ranked 6th, I believe, at the time of defeating him about a year ago, he's still the guy that is ranked number 2. He's still the guy that has, on paper, the best resume. And he gave Kamaru Usman 2 really hard fights, especially the first fight. But the second fight still wasn't Usman's easiest victory, that's for sure. And he's a guy that I think has just as much of a claim as Belal Muhammad, a guy that he feels like he deserves it. And a lot of people are championing him to get the chance. And I have no problem with that either. His last fight with Leon didn't go well at all. He got poked really badly in the eye. It's one of the worst eye pokes I've seen, and he deserves a crack at Leon again for sure. But what I think in a most ideal situation is Colby and Belal fight to really get a clear-cut number 1 contender, but that's not going to happen. It's just not. Both guys are probably going to hold out. I think Belal's more willing to fight another opponent than Colby is, and that could be because he just realizes Colby does deserve it more, or because he's just a guy that's willing to fight more, willing to get more money, willing to just risk it. And if he fights Shavkat Rakhmonov, I do think he will lose. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov in that welterweight division is the most polished fighter and the most well-rounded fighter, and I think he's the guy that is going to be champion next. I think he could beat Leon today. I think if they fought in an upcoming event, I do think Shavkat could get it done. The guy is 17-0, 9 subs, 8 KOs. It's truly something impressive. He is just as dominant as any other fighter we've seen come into the UFC with a lot of hype. So because of his humble nature and because he's not a showboating guy, he doesn't have the type of hype that Khamzat Chimaev has. But he's just as dominant, and I do think he has what it takes to defeat Leon just with his ground game and his power in his hands and his feet as well. He kicks really well. He's just a really well-rounded fighter. Gilbert Burns fights Jorge Masvidal at UFC 287 in 2 weeks, so that's going to be interesting. I do think Gilbert gets it done. He is the heavy favorite, but Jorge is a cunning guy, and with all that time off, he didn't look terrible against Colby. He had some moments of success, but for the most part, he got dominated, as he should, against someone like Colby, someone who's so good at wrestling and is such a deep cardio tank. But I do think Jorge has a small chance. If I had to quantify it, probably about a 5% chance to defeat Durinho Burns, but that's still a chance. And I think the way he would get it done, if he does have any semblance of a chance, is he has to pull something out of the magic hat the same way he did against Ben Askren. Because more than likely, if he didn't knock out Ben Askren with a crazy, extravagant, outside-the-box finish, he would have probably been handled by someone as good at wrestling as Ben. So if he can realize that and really do something special against Durinho, anything's possible. But I foresee Durinho dominating Jorge. We see Jorge never get his chance against Edwards. But let's just entertain that thought. If Leon Edwards can defeat Durinho, and he does it in an emphatic fashion the way that he needs to in order to win, well, we're going to see Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal next, because that 3-piece in a soda moment is so viral, and it's something that's ingrained in the fans' minds, and that kind of exchange just builds a lot of hype around a fight, and that would do cuckoo numbers for pay-per-view. So in an alternate universe, I could see that happening, but if you're a betting man, obviously Durinho is the safe bet. The guy is just ferocious. He gave Hamza Chimaev the hardest fight of his entire life. No other fighter even could land strikes on Hamzat, but Durinho dragged him into the deep waters and really could have gotten the victory if it was another set of judges. There are judges who have made worse calls than that, and it was a really close fight. So definitely see Durinho getting a chance at Leon as well, and I think he could beat Leon as well. But Leon, if he fights the way he did on Saturday, I mean, he is a tough guy to beat. He's so incredible with striking. His cardio was clearly really, really good, and he was... something about him is so stoic. He's so calm. But it's enough about the welterweight division. Let's talk about that co-main, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I thought Rafael Fiziev would get it done. Obviously, the odds makers did as well. Fiziev was about a minus 200 favorite. And I thought Fiziev would get it done by decision. It sure enough went to decision, but the opposite happened. Justin Gaethje was the victor, and he looked pretty damn good. He got his first takedown, which is hilarious considering he's a high pedigree wrestler. If he utilizes wrestling more, we wouldn't have seen him lose against guys like Eddie Alvarez, but he just refused to. But it was cool to see him get a takedown in the final seconds of the fight. And he's just a guy that's just so ferocious. His spirit is indomitable. He is the definition of indomitable. He is hard to overcome, his will. And I think Fiziev did a great job, but he just is not quite at that level yet, and I think he can be. He's such a high pedigree kickboxer. His striking's so clean, and his movement's really athletic. He's really quick. But if he can just figure out how to get a little smarter with where he picks and chooses his exchanges, I think he's going to be a tough guy to beat. But Justin Gaethje, that 155 division, Islam Makhachev is talking about, I want to go up and fight Leon. Well, maybe you should defend the 155 strap a little more before you start going up. Obviously, we saw Conor McGregor do that, but he was such a unique phenomenon that he had special exception. I think with Islam, he should really try to get better. He's a great fighter. He's dominant, but he doesn't really finish fights as often as I feel like he can. So get better at finishing fights at 155, and then I would love to see him against Leon. And I think he would actually give Leon a great fight. He's a guy that cuts a lot of weight, so I think him versus Leon makes sense at one point. And I think he could beat Leon this year if they fought. It would be close. I would probably give Leon a 60% chance of victory in that fight, but obviously 40% for Islam is a great chance. It's roughly the same percentage chance I gave to Volk. And yeah, just crazy stuff going on as far as people wanting to move around divisions. But yes, it was insane. It was a great night of fights, and 286 was certainly a good time. I thought Marvin Vettori looked good. Roman Dolidze seems to be a guy that if he doesn't knock you out, he has a hard time getting the victory. He starts to get really sluggish as the fight progresses, as he doesn't get the finish. So I think he has a lot of potential, but he needs to definitely improve as far as his gas tank, his cardio goes, and figure out how to maybe get a finish in a more efficient way. And Jennifer Maia, she looked impressive. She defeated Casey O'Neill, and I thought Casey O'Neill had a great chance at being victorious. But enough about 286. Let's talk about this upcoming weekend. We have an amazing fight. This fight's going to be absolutely incredible. It's the type of fight that every time I choose who I think is going to be victorious in my head, I see the alternate scenario playing out. Both guys have such a great claim at becoming victorious this upcoming weekend, and they're both so tough. They're both so excellent at striking. They're both phenomenal mixed martial artists, and I think Chito Vera's the more well-rounded of the two, but I think Sandhagen's striking is slightly superior, so it's going to be incredible. I think Sandhagen, to maybe a detriment sometimes, leans on his toughness. I think if he figured out how to really outpoint his opponent the way that Izzy does, he could be a dominant fighter, but he allows himself to get into brawls a lot, the way that Justin Gaethje does. And that can cause for some losses, the way that he lost to Petr Yan. And I think his best avenue to victory against Chito Vera is keeping that distance, using that length advantage, which is, I believe, a slight advantage. Chito's not short at all, but Sandhagen's one of the taller fighters in that division. They're pretty close in size, but I just feel with Sandhagen's striking prowess and with Chito's desire to want to be in brawls, I feel like if I had to really choose someone to come out on top, They're both putting it all out there and brawling. I'll put my money on Sandhagen just because I think he's the more technical fighter. And although I think Cheeto might be a tougher fighter, they're both so goddamn tough, and they both are so technical. I just see Sandhagen getting it done. He's a guy that is champion caliber, not that Cheeto's not. I just think Sandhagen, I think he's slightly older as well. I think it's his time, and I think he'll get it done this upcoming Saturday. And then, of course, in April, we have UFC 287, Israel Adesanya fighting Alex Pereira again. This fight's going to be absolutely incredible, and I do think Israel gets it done. But I'll put out a video about that. That's all I got for you guys today. MMT out.